preparing their full project proposals, for example, to access the finance which should be available for implementation of these actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Even though we're still running behind, I don't want to cut it short. Are there any remarks from the panel to the panel, or we would take one or two questions from the floor? I see you're all, yes, there's India. I just want to say India and St. Lucia, and I think those are the two. You have the floor.
Thanks, co-facilitator, and thanks for all the presentations. I have two very brief points. One to the Jeff representative. In your last slide, you talked about de-risking the partner investments, and Jeff helped to address the barriers through de-risking. Can you give us one concrete example of how Jeff has done in Gambia? And another point is to the UNEP representative. Again, in the last slide, you talked about subsidies while supporting. That was one of the elements which you mentioned. So UNEP supporting countries and how the subsidy point coming there, I was curious to know. Thank you.
Thank you for the very clear question. St. Lucia?
Thank you. Good morning. Just wanted to indicate an appreciation for the presentation, and it particularly piqued my interest because we did make an attempt under our third national communication, other relevant information component, to begin to articulate what our technology needs assessment were. And your presentation really did make me appreciate one of the issues that we identified was a gap in actually translating that now into an action plan. And I know that some of the points you highlighted in terms of the capacity building at the individual and institutional level, while we did take a very cross-sectoral approach with across the various sectors, having identified technology needs across some of our key sectors such as agriculture, coastal zone, and transportation and energy sectors. But look forward to just speaking with you further in how we could translate that into an action plan, taking it to the next step, because identifying some of the exact financial needs for that was one of the gaps that we identified. One reason being the timing that we needed to present the deliverable in, and of course the challenges in identifying the right methodology to do so. So just wanted to again indicate appreciation for this presentation. Thanks.
The appreciation, and for the follow-up, of course these colleagues will be available. There's one third very important question.
No, not a question, but
comment.
Something to complement the discussion, I hope. My name's Peter Glenn. I'm with the here representing the International Chamber of Commerce, and I will present in this afternoon's question. But in the context of what we've been speaking about, I think if I can just put some information before you, the OECD predicts that $93 trillion investment is going to be needed in the next 15 years if we're going to achieve a low carbon scenario. But it also says that OECD institutional investors alone manage $90 trillion in assets. On to say one of the barriers to investing that money is the lack of bankable projects. So the point of the intervention here is to say there is the money available, the finance is available, and what you've all been speaking about this morning is the various ways that, the organisations, the intergovernmental organisations in the countries are going about to set in place the procedures that bridge the gap between the money that is available and their requirements for mitigation and adaptation strategies.
Thank you for that comment. I'm sure that we can go drill deeper on those issues in the breakout session, but we heard some possible ways like national green funds, national climate funds that have been set up, the facilitation and the support that is provided by the GEF, by UNEP, but also by MDBs in that direction. There were these two specific questions addressed to you, Chiz, and to Sarah, if you would be so kind and answer them, or yeah, of course, Bubu, you can also, and then we will move into the group discussion, please.
I will throw some light on the issue raised by St. Lucia, because when we did our second national communication, that was where we found ourselves. We had a whole chapter on technologies, but then we could not produce anything that is tangible in the national communication. The time is not there and the resources are not there. So I would recommend that you go through a full TNA if you have not been selected as a country that would be doing the TNA. Because in the TNA process, you have all the tools from the time you need to develop a technology needs assessment up to the time you do a technology action plan through a barrier analysis, because you may have an idea of what the technologies are there as part of your national communication, but then unless you do a good technology prioritization and characterization under the TNA process, and then you use tools also to do barrier analysis, so that at least you know exactly by the time you get to develop project ideas and action plan under the tabs, because these are 3 layers in the TNA process, and you must do all of them. And there are tools that are available at the CTCN for you to be able to have a good report at the end and a good plan at the end. So I think this is my recommendation for St. Lucia.
Thank you very much. I believe practical information for somebody that has gone through the process are always well taken. Chiz.
Yeah, to answer India's question, in terms of de-risking, what we have seen so far in the newer projects, what we're seeing in the Gambia, tend to focus on what de-risking policy environment. And for instance, the project that just got started last year, which is with FAO on adapting agriculture to climate change in the Gambia, for instance, there's quite a bit of dissemination of risk information to users, for instance, as well as creation of the policy environment that would enable a lot of the private sector entities come in. So that's one example. And another one in the mitigation sector is for the C4All proposal that has also been approved for implementation. That one, I think, is a UNIDO proposal. And again, the creation of the policy environment related to having more robust appliances as well as renewable energy standards introduced within the country, as well as having the platform to enable the enhancement of capacity of market entries as well as the private sector. These are the elements that have been sort of woven into the project design, more for the de-risking of policy.
Thank you, Chiz. Sarah?
So to answer the question from India, in short, you asked about the subsidies, and this was part of the country identifying what's required to further enhance the uptake of these technologies. So in a 10-year period, they would then identify, in their case, which is case specific, and for this technology action plan, the required amount of government subsidies. So it's not subsidies coming from our side, but which would be part of creating the enabling framework conditions.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you to the panelists and to the active participation from the colleagues in the floor. We're running a bit behind, but we will catch up because we are fast thinking and fast acting. Now comes the breakout group.